I didn't realize how much money that it takes.
They don't know how to conform to like how artists are making music today. Still at high quality. I'm not trying to take away. You can make a very high quality album for a fraction of the budget. What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Music Entrepreneur Club 2.0. I'm one of your hosts, Damien Ritter. We got my girl, Erinn Knight, DJ Payne 1 in the building. You know, I like to start out with the wins. So, DJ Payne 1, what's your win from the past week? Let people know what you actually do.
I successfully played 2 back-to-back shows in a single night. The second one sold out. The second one was a 20th anniversary for the Performing Arts Center here called the Overcharging Center. Shout out to them. And then I went right to the event that me and my sister Cupcake throw monthly, hit capacity. So I was exhausted. I got home and I was just like, where am I? I don't want to do it again, but hey, it worked out.
So for people that don't see people may be listening to this and like, I'm not feeling the energy, because Payne uses all his energy on the weekends. He uses all his energy on the weekends, like turning up, you know, DJ Pauly D style. You probably won't believe it.
I do handstand. There's a pull-up bar in the DJ booth, and I just pull up. I do like 1,000 pull-ups. And I mix with my feet.
Multitasking. That's why he's able to be with his shirt off in some of the posts on our page. It's just.
I was just about to say, that's why he's so buff.
Erinn, what's one of your wins from the past week?
You know, I was trying to think about one, not because I don't have so many, but like I'm grateful. I'm in a season of winning in my career. So like when I pitch to people, they like them and they want to work with me. I'm like hitting at like 85, 90% right now. And I think that that's like really encouraging to me because I'm learning how to deliver things to companies in the way that they want them. I'm realizing that the thing I want from them will come when they feel like I'm solving a problem for them. So even my delivery and my messaging has taken a different turn. I'm incorporating a lot more storytelling into pitching so I can be like, this is why this matters to your brand and not just me. So that's been really cool. The hard part of that, which I feel like a lot of people don't talk about, is I have a bunch of yeses, but no deposits yet. So it's like, yeah, great, you know, but I like September ended my 2 biggest consulting gigs. So I'm always like pitching and prospecting, but I'm doing it for my companies and for me because my companies, I'm not taking a salary from either of them right now for 2 different reasons. So the only money that I really bring in now is my own consulting clients. You know, the podcast is cool. There's a couple things here and there, but like I need real income. I'm in my 30s now. I have different interests. I'm expensive. I don't live in a cheap way by any means. So it's a unique place for me because I'm like, I have a ton of yeses. I even have invoices out. I'm just waiting for the money to come. So I feel it, especially because it's the top of the month. So it's like all them bills came out. And I'm like, huh. I wonder when people going to come through, you know?
I appreciate you sharing that because it's very real. It's the very real experience of an entrepreneur. So my win, I'll be honest, it's been a rough few weeks because I think once you get to a certain age, like you just can't expect for like even a day to go by without any bad news. Like you just know too many people and their baggage. You know, you love these people. These are your friends. These are your family. And you got your own baggage. Then your parents are getting older. So it's tough to go through it. It's rare to go through a day without any bad news. But on the good side of things, John and I are expanding the team. I think I alluded to this in an episode maybe a couple weeks ago, because we have to get to a point where we're creating content consistently. Like the Lesbian Homie came out, it was successful, boom, and then it just kind of stopped. And then once that happens, the algorithm punches you in the gut and basically takes away all your momentum. So we need to get to a place where we're just constantly producing. So that's what we're gearing up for. We're beefing up the team. We're writing scripts ahead of time. We're trying to go into the year with 4 scripts done. So all we need to do is kind of plan out the production of those so we can keep the thing moving. Because not only will you be blessed by the algorithm for keeping the consistency, then we might be able to justify a subscription, right? Because things will be constantly coming. So that might open up the opportunity for subscription revenue. So I'm excited about that because we feel like we found the right partners. They have a lot of experience. I feel like they came to the table with a very fair offer on how we can partner. So we're super excited. I just hope that excitement kind of continues through the new year and we're able to get this done. On the Two Law side of things, today we have Two Law Sessions, which is just an event that we have a new A&R associate director named Dion who joined us from Create. And him and I put together basically a studio day with Mike and Keys here in LA. Mike and Keys are pretty popular producers here locally in LA. So we have 2 days of sessions today and tomorrow for LA artists, trying to cultivate, or just have more support for the artists here locally. And this is kind of the start of that. So looking forward to that. Dan Runcie's Trapital Summit is tomorrow. I'm looking forward to going to that. And then obviously we got Game from the Gods kicking off next week. So we did have to cancel Philly. So if you were coming to Philly, we're canceling Philly, but we're still doing DC, Atlanta, and New York. So we're starting next Friday in DC. So please go to gamefromthegods.com, get your ticket, DM me, might give you a discount. It's still going to be a good time. So I know that was a lot. So let's jump into our topics. What do we want to start with?
Let's start with Muni Long. We talked about her was it last episode? Yeah, it was last episode. So she was on the Joe Budden podcast. They were discussing the death of the bridge, and she said a big reason why newer R&B music doesn't have bridges in it is because the musicality of the producers who are making the music is lower. And I think there are other factors that influence that. Songs are shorter. I think a lot of the music that we get today is a direct result, not necessarily of the creators, but of the consumers and the market. But I also do think that she was saying some things that were valid critiques and food for thought for producers. And I know there was a backlash and people were upset about her saying that in the comments section. I'm like, do you know who she is? But just to be fair and balanced, I think we're going to have some criticism of her in
last week I was on board. This week I'm going to be a little bit more critical of some of the things that she's saying.
For a 12-hour block is $1,200. Then the session engineer is $75 to $100 an hour. So just add that up. Say you do 7 sessions a week, it's $10,000 just on sessions. And then mixing anywhere from $2,500 to $10,000 a track. That's 19 tracks. So that's $100,000, just rounding it.
Your math is impeccable.
Now you're already at 120. And now you got to pay for the beats. So they're anywhere from $5,000 to $40,000 a track, depending on who you're working with, times 14. So $400,000. So let's just say $250 plus 120. Now you're already at $300,000. That eliminates 75% of the people who are aspiring. I didn't realize how much money that it takes to actually be. This is before you market. This is before you shoot a video. This is before you do an appearance.
They tell you to invest in yourself, but it's also a bit scary investing in yourself.
This is the most important thing. But there are so many other things that it takes to take that song and make it be worth something. There are hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars that go into taking a song and sharing it with the world. And so that's a conversation that I think should be had.
Yeah, that math is wild. That is not the amount of money that it takes to be an artist. I know that a lot of artists that aren't really that serious are just waiting for an excuse that's not their fault so they can be like, yeah, that's why I didn't make it, right? And I've said this before on the podcast. They're waiting for that excuse. So when they hear that video, they're like, oh shit, I don't have $300,000. to create an album. Like, that's the reason why I'm not, gonna make it. I don't know any artist where that is the math. That might be the math for her. And if I was managing her, we would have to review that math and that budget, because that still wouldn't be the budget, for her. She's got like 7 million monthly listeners. And I know she's been around for a long time. And sometimes when artists start in a major label system, that's kind of the inflated budget that they were working with at the time. But now that things are more independent, there's a lot more people in the space doing different things, engineering, a lot more people making beats. Like, they don't know how to conform to like how artists are making music today. Still at high quality. I'm not trying to take away. You can make a very high quality album for a fraction of the budget. Hit up my guy, DJ Payne 1. He's not going to hit you for $40,000 for an exclusive. He's got people that I'm sure he can connect you with that can help mix and master the project. It's not going to cost you thousands of dollars per track. So this is not your out. If you listen to this and you liked this may be how she set up, but even for her, I think Payne and I were talking before we jumped on. It's like, maybe if you are like the top of the top, this makes sense. This is like Katy Perry, Justin Bieber, like that budget could make sense. Maybe even a little more for those artists. But this is a wild budget to make it seem like this is what you need to make music in the music industry. Would love to hear your guys' thoughts.
To be fair, I feel like she has writing credits with Justin Bieber. I'm looking this up right now.
She has huge writing credits. I mean, she wrote Fifth Harmony, Worth It. She wrote, or at least co-wrote, Timber for Kesha and Pitbull. She's written songs for Mariah Carey. So these are still the artists that are operating within, I would say, the kind of traditional major label system, who are grandfathered in and probably still stay within the budgets and financial requirements of, let's say, the 90s.
I mean, yeah, California King Bed, Rihanna, Don't Wake Me Up, huge Chris Brown song. So she's got Ariana songs, multiple, Mariah Carey, K. Michelle. Yeah. So I'm not making an argument for the amounts for the average artist. 100% agree with Dame on that. I'm just saying for her, I could see this being her norm, especially because she's also a singer. So she's not going to record herself. And she's a vocal producer, so she doesn't need one. But I know a lot of artists who are doing well who also bring in vocal producers. Like, I think about Kehlani. She's not on the same level. Obviously, Kehlani's bigger, but it's like Kehlani will have multiple writers, vocal producers. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think it would be way more for an A-list star at these rates. I think the biggest expense that stuck out to me that most people wouldn't be able to afford, because the engineer in the studio at the rate was not that expensive. It's just the amount of time. She's saying 12-hour sessions, 7 days a week, which is, she may be like that. I feel like she is. She's probably going into the studio like it's work because she's a writer. Whereas I think about Pierre Bourne. When I used to know Pierre, and he's, produced Magnolia. That was his first claim to fame. Then now his most recent is like he's done stuff on Donda. He's done a lot of stuff for Pharrell. But Pierre Bourne, when I first got to know him, he was an engineer at, I think, Epic or Interscope here or in Atlanta. And he was trying to get on as an artist. And he was like, yo, this is what I do. Most of the time when the labels pay for 12-hour sessions, I have to be there all day. He said most of the artists don't come, or they'll show up super late. So what I do is I trap out the extra hours to up-and-coming rappers, right? So I feel like she sang 12 hours in the studio, like you said, Dame, and then people are like, yeah, it's this expensive. But I don't know anybody going to the studio for that long, even when you have access to it. I had 2 artists signed to a label who had one of the best studios I've ever been to. And one of them was like, I realize I'm not taking advantage of this. I got to sign up for this time. So I agree with Dame. I'm just saying, I don't think for her, it's wild because of her type of credits, the standard that she's used to. If I'm not mistaken, she is independent or independent-ish. So she, at 7 million monthly listeners, is taking home a lot of the bread. And she's done a shit ton of syncs. So I think with things like that, she can justify that cost. But all of y'all, respectfully, relax.
I don't know if she is independent because she has 2 platinum solo singles.
She's not. She's not independent.
Yeah, she's on Def Jam.
Yeah.
So I want to know
what on Def Jam since she had like both of her hits.
Yeah,
Did
Hours and Hours.
Come on Def Jam because either way, I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah, Hours and Hours may have been through her imprint, but it was on Def Jam, and then from what I could tell from the RIAA website, her follow up to that, which was also platinum, was just Def Jam. But I'd be curious to see how that budget breaks down, because everyone's in the comments section saying, damn, I got to come out of pocket $120,000. And I'm like, wait a minute. This is someone who's on Def Jam who, prior to going platinum herself, again, wrote hit songs for artists like Mariah Carey and Madonna. Just one, I can't conceive of being at that level as a songwriter to go from K. Michelle to Madonna just like that and be so connected. Because, these are, she was writing, I don't even know how you get in those rooms, especially with the producers. Like she was, Stargate did Worth It for Fifth Harmony. And that's it. These are hits. These are not just regular hits. These aren't like the kinds of, no disrespect to the new era. I'm in it. I'm getting hits in the new era. The money's very different and the metrics are different with the way streaming works. They just are. These are hits that are hits the old school way. So we're talking about big money, big budgets, big music videos. Nowadays, you can get a hit. Like Rod Wave, when I listen to him, and I love Rod Wave, I'm pretty sure he records everything himself. I think he's tracking everything himself. And he has hit after hit after hit, and a lot of artists do. Lil Wayne was tracking himself. That's remember with the documentary, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, Lil Wayne's in the hotel room setting his mic stand up." That's how a lot of artists are doing it. She's not, and I wonder if that's because that's what's necessary. That's what the label tells her, or if that's just the tradition that she comes from. If it's just the tradition that she comes from, I think absolutely she could cut that budget down by over half and still get the same result. But is it a psychological thing for her? That's what she needs for her process. I'm not going to judge that. If that's what she needs and she has the resources to do so, cool. I think the issue is not saying this is the standard I hold myself to, and therefore this is what I have to spend on it. It's presented as this is what you need to be an artist. And there's got to be cognitive dissonance because we have YouTube now, we have Instagram now. We're looking at these artists recording in these home studios the songs that become hits a week later. And you think, okay, well, maybe that's just a different type of music. I don't think so. I think you can make amazing music with very few resources if you have the right people around you and you have the right vision. It's like when, this is a terrible analogy, but it's like when I go grocery shopping, I know which grocery stores have the same shit for a lower price than the others. So I have to go to 3 grocery stores.
So I get that she has like super mega records, but that she's written for, but those are other people's projects. And she might have the resources to create a project, with the same budget of a Bieber or a bigger star. But again, if I was working with her, I would try to get her to understand, yeah, you wrote those records for them. That's not how your community is set up yet. That's not how That's not your project. Your project doesn't have the track record of performance like an Ariana Grande or a Rihanna. That's not where you're at yet. So there's no way, unless, like Payne said, like she has to do this because this is what she's used to, and this is the only way that she can, produce quality music. We have to strip that budget down. That budget is wild, and where she's at, and the album's only been out for a month. And obviously Made for Me has a shitload of streams. It has 182 million streams already. But there's only 3 other songs that have broken 1 million. The other songs are in the hundreds of thousands. And again, it's only been out a month, and I'm sure the major label will pick another song to do whatever they do with their songs to run it up to maybe Made for Me status. But this is what's really going to put her in a tough position to make money from her streams, given I don't know what her contract is, and now she's going to be more reliant on the other things, the performances and things like that. She might not be able to recoup if that is the budget, because that was just to make the album. We haven't even talked about, marketing and promoting the album, which is probably double the amount that she spent to make it, so now we're probably 1 million in. How's she going to recoup that with her level of streaming? Like if it was
LA, like you're out there. I don't exist in that world. It could also.
I don't exist in this world either.
Okay, fair. But I mean, is that just, I'm speculating, is that just you go out to LA, people know you as the hit maker, and they're like, okay, we're going to connect you with the best people, but these best people come with the best price tag. Yes, there may be people that charge at 1/10 of them, because there are amazing engineers everywhere. And I get pissed off when an engineer's like, yeah, I'll mix for 500. I'm like, bitch, for what? And that's just me being a jerk. But 500 is just unrealistic for these small DIY projects. It just is. But they sound great for a mix for 500. Mix for 500 will sound great. But does a mix for 5,000 sound better? I don't. Maybe it does. But is that just like how it is out there, where you walk in, they say, "Oh shit, it's Muni Long, it's Priscilla." I forget her full name, but like, oh, she's the hit maker. Okay, cool. But this is a $10,000 project because she really cares about. I can tell she's someone who takes a lot of pride in her process. Mm-hmm. So this is just speculation. Do people exploit that? I've seen that happen. I'm not saying that's what's happening to her, but I've seen it happen.
I've seen it happen, but I feel like she's so savvy. You can tell that even from the previous clip that we had last week. And I've been a fan of her for a while. And so like, I'm kind of more, into the ins and outs. I know a good portion of her team and the way that the marketing, kind of flows. That's why I thought she was independent, because of how the first song, if I'm not mistaken, they put it out and then I guess Def Jam came, but maybe I just maybe I just was off with that.
I think you could be right, because it felt very organic. It felt DIY. It didn't feel like a major rollout.
And then it was a slow burn and it was a hit in the streets, but then it became a hit, so I feel like I remember watching that go to levels, but who knows? I know like a lot of labels, work in that form. I just think that, like, for instance, the one of the last artists that I managed was signed to a small independent label, independent hip hop artist. The guy who mixed and mastered was an in-house person. Like, again, they had a studio, engineers, whatever. He mixed for John Mayer and not John Mayer, sorry, John Legend and, like some big people. His normal rate was $5,000 per song. Because she signed to the label that he worked for, it was $2,500 per song. Like, and that's just tiny little label. Do you know what I'm saying? Like one of the contracts that just ended for me last month, that artist is Grammy nominated, won a bunch of other awards in different categories. not household name by any means, but signed to a major label. And it's $5,000 per record if it's going to be a single, and for the album, she gets a bulk rate, you know what I'm saying? And so for her project that just dropped, I think it was like $30K to master. And again, like singers, you know what I'm saying? So it's different, but I still think us expecting Muni Long to do a $500 mix, I agree. I know some mixing and mastering guys who can like really, but once you get to the level of mixing for such high level artists, you can't charge the same rate even for the same service. That's for me. Like a year ago, what it cost for me to come consult for you is way different than it is now because I've done it for way bigger companies and I'm more competent in the skill set and in the system of consulting. Do you know what I'm saying? So I feel like for her, we're talking about a value proposition, not an actual cost to be an artist. So again, I agree with the initial sentiment that this is not what everybody is charging, but I'm not even remotely being like, I think Muni Long should spend less on what she's doing. She's a genius to me. You have that many hits in that many genres across this many years, and then you come out in your late 30s as an R&B pop star, as a Black woman in America. I'm not telling her to cut. She could be, she may need caviar service while she records, on a remote island, you know what I'm saying? And I would be like, sure. Like for you, sure. I just think the main premise is like regular artists need to chill, but I don't think she has to cut back at all.
So you don't see a difference in like, it being the other experiences being stuff that she's written for on other people's projects versus how she should treat. You think she should treat Justin Bieber's album just like she should treat her own album?
100%. Because it would be one thing if she had just written one or two songs. She's been a hit maker for decades. That's like John Bellion. John Bellion owns a complex based off of the way that he writes. So his studio is better than the studio in his house is better than most people's studio. So yes, John Bellion walks across the street in the compound that he owns to record, but it's like his recording setup is probably worth $1 million. You wouldn't tell him, man, you could get this done for $50,000. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it's like John Bellion has written so many hits. Yes, he's making his own music. So for her, no. Once you have a trend of this, you're used to a certain lifestyle and a certain level, a certain quality. She may only want to record on tubes, like or on a reel to reel, you know what I'm saying? And she may have a specific tube amp because she wants the timbre of her voice to be certain. Like for me, when I go to a city, I could stay at any hotel. It has a bed, as long as it's clean, but I don't. I stay at nice hotels. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's just a standard for me. Like
I get it,
but I don't.
So what if? Okay, switch roles. What if this is a producer that now wants to put out his or her own album? You think that because they produced for Jay-Z, the biggest artist in the world, now they're putting out their own album. The same budget, the same economic model should be put in place for their project?
If Metro Boomin put the same amount into his project as stuff that he's doing with Future and whoever. I'm positive DJ Mustard is putting into his album right now because both of them.
On the business side, nobody's going to look at it like that. No, so you're going to look at like the track record of her like Spotify profile. And that may be how she wants to do it. And she may have the resources to do it, maybe even coming out of her own pocket. But until I see a track record of your own music performing at that level, I wouldn't suggest that's
one album out and 2 platinum songs. I'm confused what you want. She immediately came out swinging.
But again, look at the performance of the record. Like no, there's 3 songs that have gone over 1 million streams. So that's $3,000.
You're talking about streams. She has a radio hit.
Yeah, maybe.
Like the songs that went platinum were hella syncs, hella radio play, and whatever you're talking about on Spotify. She's still getting the old money and the new money and going on tour and selling out dates. I'm kind of unsure what you're asking because she's doing way better than a lot of like modern hit makers personally, because you can see it in her business. So I'm not even understanding.
No, all I'm saying is, well, I would love to see her deal because it's going to be, and maybe she doesn't care about recouping because there's so many other things that she's making money on, on the publishing side or whatever. I'm just saying that this budget is still inflated unless I see kind of some of the other things behind it of how we're gonna make this money back.
Do you think that Def Jam would give her that budget and say, this is what you have to do without having a clear path to recoupment?
Oh, well, of course they want to keep her. They want to keep her unrecouped. So of course they're going to be like, yeah, fuck it. Yeah. Whatever you need, like spend. Now I
don't think she's making that type of money if she got a crazy deal. I'm confused why you're looking at Spotify and thinking she's not making the money.
No, I'm not saying that she's not making. I'm not saying that she's not making the money. All I'm saying is I would never apply, like in terms of a project, I wouldn't apply like what you did on other albums to like how the economics should be set up for your album. Like that's just not how.
I don't think that they did that even when they offered her the deal, though. That's what I'm saying, because she's been trying to get deals for years for her solo work. I think that's why I thought she was still indie. I think she blew up a song and then Def Jam said, we want you, and offered her a deal. And in my opinion, considering how savvy she is, knowing the team she was working with, I don't think she took a deal that wouldn't favor her in a way like you're saying that she got an exorbitant amount of money. But I think they were betting on a hit already. And then she came back and had another hit. And I'm not talking about 7 million on Spotify. She's on radio stations globally with 2 songs, first two to bat as Muni Long, for real. You know what I'm saying? So right. I think it's a better investment than a lot of these people who pop up and they have 3, 4, 5 hot songs personally, because she has a catalog of hit records that she's wrote for other people. What would she not do for herself? And then if you see her getting 2 hits, because I know a lot of songwriters who are great at writing hits for major label artists and not for themselves. So I'm not equating the two, but I'm saying once she was up to bat and got a hit, they said, okay, and then she got another hit. Short amount of time, she's got 2 platinum records. I don't know anybody who's doing that at Def Jam. Even some of their, respectfully, like Big Sean. When's the last time Big Sean had a platinum record? He been there for ages, bro.
That I would agree with. I would bet on Muni Long before I bet on Big Sean or any of these other cats, for sure. That I agree with. The only thing I do not agree with, unless I see more information and kind of understand, like I just think that the budget, you can, like we said, we can create the same quality album for a fraction of what she claims is necessary to create it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I'll say 2 things, because I think we're agreeing on that. I don't know that this is an economic impetus so much as a creative impetus. I really, because you gotta, it doesn't matter how financially savvy an artist is. At the end of the day, they're still an artist. So they have artist tendencies, and a lot of artists just need all of these different expensive and sometimes not expensive, but just idiosyncratic elements to be present when they're making their music. And so that might be, a $20,000 a week studio. And, but to end what I'm going to say, so Levels artists, because she's talking about spending $20,000 to $40,000 on a beat. The producer, and this is an advertisement for Dylan Graham, look him up, DYLANGRAHAM. You can license one of his beats for $40 right now. If you want to buy it exclusively off his website, it's about $10,000, but it's the same beat, different usage rights. So you see that big disparity. And I think that disparity is representative of what we're talking about. You could spend $500 to get a song mixed and mastered, or you could spend $10,000 to get it mixed and mastered. it's ultimately your choice. Are the fans going to necessarily be able to tell the difference? Probably not. Is it financially or economically smart to do that? I guess it depends on your situation, but it's entirely up to the individual.
And the last thing I would say, just kind of based on what you said, you have to earn that, earn these amenities. It's not just because you're an artist and you you have these idiosyncrasies. Like, no, it's not just because you're an artist and you feel like you need, like, Muni Long has earned the right to kind of be in this space and make these demands. Like, we've talked about this very recently, like some artists, and we kind of give them a pass, like, oh, he's an artist, so yeah, we can expect. Like, no, you have to earn the right to be in these rooms. You have to earn the right to have these budgets. Like, you have to put in the work. And if you haven't put in the work, you shouldn't even be listening to what Muni Long is saying right now, because she's not talking to you.
Erinn, are you back?
Erinn looks frozen. I don't know if she's saying anything.
This is the perfect transition, this perfect segue into
Erinn, can she hear us, though? Erinn might need to pop out and come back in. But go ahead and transition to your topic while Erinn sorts out her technical difficulties.
Well, her topic transitions into my topic, but yeah, I can talk about mine. I was just thinking the other day about the day that I sold my first beat ever. And I remember that day because it was $25 and some dudes came over. I was living with my parents. I was a teenager, I think. I was probably still like 18, 19. They came by, gave me $25 for a physical CD, and that was that. And I felt like I was selling drugs. It was so weird. And then, next thing I know, I'm getting a $4,000 check from a label for a beat. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. And now I'm like, $4,000 from a major is nothing. So it's just an interesting journey. And I think artists are in such a unique space right now. As music makers, we're in such an interesting space. Just with all the technology, the majors were competing for the same attention as these major artists. We have access to the same resources, and making music is so accessible, but that means there are a lot of talented people, incredibly talented people, and a lot of people who are moderately good. There are these huge talent discrepancies in the market. There's the whole, saturation factor, whatever that means to the person using that word. My question to the two of you is, because we're speaking to up and coming artists, up and coming producers, when should you start charging as an artist for your services and for your talent? I think we're the Music Entrepreneur Club. On my channel too, I talk a lot about finances and business, but that doesn't necessarily mean everybody just makes their first beat and they sell it for $1,000 tomorrow, or everyone jumps on stage their first time and gets a $1,000 check from the venue or the promoter who puts that show on. That's really not how it works. I don't think the vast majority of artists got paid for their first show. I damn sure know the vast majority of producers didn't get paid for their first beats. So, and I think it's easy for me as a producer, it's easy to just start immediately charging for beats because there's a global market, and it doesn't matter how little experience you have access to platforms that allow you to sell your beats. And I think that's good in a lot of ways. Cause I'm the guy that's always teaching producers how to get paid for their work. But, there's also this opinion discrepancy too. There are the people who say, well, Dr. Dre gets paid $500,000 for a beat. And then there are the people who are like, well, you got to give away free beats when you first start to get your name out. So what do you think about this? When is the right time for, because there's no SOP, there's no guidebook, there's no college for this. When do artists start charging?
You want to go, Erinn?
Yeah, I think it's unique to each person. I think you do have to test the market. When I first started consulting, it was like probably like 2015, 2016. And I was charging $20 for an hour on the phone with me. I can't even imagine, you know? But even then, like, when people be like, yo, I would love to talk to you, I'd be like, yeah, here's my link. And they're like, $20. Who do you think you are? You know? There was not a market for me then. I had the value. I think even then, I think $20 was still too low for the value that I had. But what I charge now, like for independent artists, I'm still only charging $200. So that's like 8 years later. Maybe it was 2017. You know, 7 years later, I'm charging $200 for 45 minutes. I know my value is way higher than that because I get it for the same amount of time for different companies. So I'm priced in the market differently. For independent artists, because I love independent artists, I feel like I don't charge that much. But at the same time, I'm not doing it for free or for a discount or for a payment plan. I've been asked all of those. No, you can go to the MEC and watch this shit for free every day. Like, I know you ain't seen all 200 plus episodes of everything we filmed together. So go find that, go look at interviews, whatever. I'm not pricing myself according to what perception is, but I am pricing myself according to demand and perceived value personally. So I do tell a lot of people no, even with companies, and they're like, oh, can you take this? And I'm like, no. Even with me looking like, I could use some extra bread right now, I still say no. Do you know what I'm saying? And I've gotten down to the wire where I've said no because I don't want you to think of me at that rate. I would rather figure it out, move some stuff around, decrease my living than for you to value me at a certain place. So I feel like, but that's a privilege that comes with understanding and it comes with getting your reps in. So for artists, I think test the market. If you have a feature, I've seen people talking about feature sale. I'm like, I didn't know people cared enough about your music to buy a feature, but go off. Like, if people are buying it, cool. Test the market, but don't over conflate your value. But also, things that artists don't think about is like, what is their real world value? I think a lot of times people say, oh, I'm talented, or I have 40,000 monthly listeners and this person only has 8,000 monthly listeners. Some of those things are valuable metrics, but a lot of times you got to think, if I have 8,000 monthly listeners and you have 40, but I have a homie who has 70 that'll give me a free feature, wouldn't it be better for you just to get into the community and in the mix of people who are connected to a bunch of artists? Like, you got to think of the opportunity cost. For me, that's why I will defer to saying no and just taking bigger checks, because my opportunity cost is people every day are asking me to disseminate wisdom and knowledge. So I'm going with the bigger checks, but I'm also all day, every day in my real life. I'm doing it for free because I care about people. Do you know what I'm saying? So I have to pick and choose. But if you're an artist, it may be a better opportunity for your name to be around 8 different scenes that people had never heard about you. So then in a year, you really can charge a feature fee versus nickel and diming 40, 50 here, or, you know, but I also think playing shows, sometimes you could play a show, multiple shows in your hometown, and you're actually bringing folks out and people are just like, oh, well, you live down the street and you like to do this, you shouldn't get paid. No, you gonna pay me, or I just won't come out the house, or I'll pull up to the show and support, but I'm not gonna perform, you know. So I think you just gotta there's a lot of things to evaluate. I can't tell you how to decide to charge. It depends on what scene you're in. Like, I had artists performing at like county fairs and stuff like that. County fairs will pay you 5, 7, 8 racks. They're not selling that many tickets in Iowa. I would never sell that many tickets in Iowa, but the Iowa State Fair was booking some of my artists. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you can't necessarily equate it to hard tickets either. You have to have an in. That's also why I feel like I'm super valuable. I can make you money when you don't have the data to back it up. If I know where you have a distinction in the market, all the people I worked with were making clean music. Iowa State Fair doesn't do hip hop artists, but they're like, oh, clean music. You know what I'm saying? So it depends, you know?
Yeah, so it definitely depends. And I would kind of look at like each revenue stream, right? Because like when we first started, my little brother would go to the mall and sell CDs, and we didn't have any traction, but he depended on kind of like his sales tactics. So he kind of sold CDs like right out the gate with no audience. But that's physical hand to hand, is where it's really more reliant on your sales skills in the moment. With features, I think you just got to think about a lot of things. Do you want to do that many features? Do you want to just commit to making music with people that maybe you don't think, are as good as you, or to have the same brand or messaging or whatever? Do you want to just be kind of a work for hire person? You can do comparables, like other artists, same size. Like, what are they charging? A lot of times people just put kind of their price right on social, so you can kind of see, okay, what are other people charging? Are people even asking you for a verse? Like sometimes artists realize that they can charge for a verse, like just on accident, because somebody will reach out and be like, hey, how much do you charge for a verse? And be like, charge for a verse? I've never charged for a verse. So then you might kind of fall into it that way. With shows, I feel like it's a little bit easier because you should have an idea of like how many people that you pull out to a city. If you've done it before. If you haven't done it before, it's a little bit more, of a guesstimate. But, there's typically math involved of like, okay, the venue's this size, ticket sales are this much. Like how much should you make to perform at that venue? Or you could do what La Russell's doing and just pay what you want and just kind of get the information that way. But like, okay, people value my show at this. My average ticket price is this. So there's a lot of different ways to value, to come up with pricing for different strategies. But you also have to think about like, A, what you want to do. And two, just kind of the impact on like the perceived brand of what you're doing. Because if you are trying to present yourself as kind of like a Rick Ross brand, and that's kind of like your story, your messaging, everything's high quality, everything's high value, then your pricing might be different than somebody that's a person that has a more of a story, that's a person of the people, that where it's kind of like La Russell's thing. You can kind of come to a show if you only have this much. So that's a long-winded answer, but it really is what Erinn said. It depends. You have to think about all of these things when you're pricing. But I think a lot of people just realize they can pay for things just on the internet when people ask, like, how much do you charge for this? Or, we put together our first tour when promoters were just randomly asking us, like, when we're going on tour. So, okay, it seems like promoters are hitting us up. There's a demand for it in their city. They believe it. Let's have these conversations and put together a tour. Yeah.
Well, with that, so artists, performing artists, recording artists, they have that live performance element, and they have the physical product element that appeals to pretty much all consumers, right? I think the same can be said for a DJ. For a producer, someone who's making beats, their product and their service is a lot less accessible to the average person. You can't just walk down the street and see random people and say, hey, you want to buy my beats? Well, no. The same way you can walk up to them and say, hey, I have a free performance this Friday, or hey, I have an album. Do you want to buy it? Here's a physical thing. So with the way the producer economy works, both of you have managed artists, run labels, etc. When should a producer start charging? Because, like, I encourage producers who are just starting out to get a lot of experience, but there's such a fragile balance. Because on the one hand, if you work for free too much, people might start expecting you to always work for free. And if you don't have experience, how do you place a dollar amount on that raw talent if it's not experience? And the way you get experience is by working for free in the beginning. Yeah. And so it's this really interesting paradox. And I think producers who start out will overcharge a lot of the times, or they'll undercharge. And the problem that I find with overcharging is that, you just kind of don't get any clients as a producer. But if you undercharge, if you're like, you know what, I'm just going to charge $20 for this custom beat. Yeah, well, if someone gives you $20, they're going to act like they own you for the next month and a half so you end up doing the work for a $5,000 beat and you only pocket $20. You're going to you're going to get burned out.
You can manage that communication. I don't suggest any producer just be like, look, I work for free. Like, I'm at a point now, like, you're always going to have those people that you work for free for, like, kind of behind the scenes. But that, I would never present that just like on Instagram, like, hey, producer, free beats, like, who wants them? Like, I would always present at least some price publicly, and then make exceptions for, work for free, kind of behind the scenes for people that you really want to work with, people that are super talented, or just the homies. Like, so I would never just start out saying, yeah, everything's for free.
But should you do that day one? Like, I made my first beat yesterday. I'm on the internet. These are my prices. Or should you just kind of not even focus on that? Because I think, I personally, if I had to advise someone, if they weren't some type of savant where their beats are just amazing out of the gate, and you can tell they have some growing and learning to do, I would say, all right, go on the internet, network, post beats. Don't necessarily sell them, but don't also necessarily, give people prices or give people the impression that you're selling them, because, as you said, Dame, if someone wants the beats, they'll reach out, and you can figure that out, behind the scenes. You don't have to make it public until you're confident in your talent level and experience level, and then you can start putting a competitive but realistic price tag on it. And then also you can make your exceptions, and you're testing the market. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, you adjust.
Yeah, but if it's your first beat, you probably shouldn't even sell that one because it's probably trash. But I just think that if you do offer free beats at any point, like, that should be something special, like, that you're doing for a particular purpose, maybe to get your email list up, or to promote a certain contest, or something. That shouldn't just be like the way your store is set up, like free beats for nothing, right? If producers want to give out free beats to get information, to get email addresses and things like that, I think that's cool. But I also think that they should educate them on, like, how to use the beat, make sure I'm credited, get the publishing right, etc. You're not going to get every negotiation right. I think I told the story of, like, with us working with Blue Chew the last time for the Lesbian Homie 3, like, that the number I said to them, they said yes way too fast, and I knew right then. I was like, fuck, like, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, damn, I messed. Like, I still don't think I get maximum dollar in every negotiation that I'm in. You're just gonna have to learn over time. You win some, you lose some, but hopefully you're working with quality artists that continue to come back to you. So that's kind of what would be my goal.
I definitely have had that moment where I'm just like, I think it's like I needed it, but Reebok approached us. We gave them a number, and when they came back and said, we're going to give you 5,000 more.
That's even worse.
Yo, they probably could. They probably would have gave us 10 times. We told them so low that they had to give us more just to meet their budget. You know what I'm saying? Like, they felt bad for us. I'm like, yo, I felt like we told them 10,000. We said 10,000. You know what I'm saying? I didn't feel comfortable with that, but I was talking to my constituents. You know what I'm saying? I was like, man, I think we should probably say 20. Even 20 was too low. I think we should say 20, 25, right? So one of our team members found this calculator. They plugged it in. They talking about, oh yeah, according to this, we should be at like 8,000 or 9,000. So we should say 10. When we said 10 and they said, hey, we're going to give you 15. I was like, bro, we probably could have asked for 80 or 90, and they would at least came back at 50 or 60. So the very next brand deal was with Crown Royal. I asked the artist, what do you want? Artist said 25,000. I started at night. I started at, I think, 60, but I was able to actually get the deal up to 98. I almost did a 6-figure deal because I got another person, you know what I'm saying? But it's because I realized I'm playing in a different league. By the same token, on the other side, I've done free shit for both of the same artists, like within months, to get in with the right companies. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think people hear these exorbitant numbers sometimes and just assume that it's a standard across the board. And that's even what I open this with, figuring out what the pitch is, what do these people want, and then how can I deliver that to them? Like, what's the actual, like, can I get good at negotiating and understanding the market and looking at brand directives and subscribing to Adweek and looking at ad agency? And you know what I'm saying? I spend money on going to meet these people in person, because I could send an email till I'm blue in the face, but if I pull up on them and they see how sincere I am, they're going to be like, yo, like, at least let's get coffee or let's hop on a Zoom. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's so many factors involved. But going back to Payne's original question with a producer, I think if you're having somebody ask you to make a custom beat, you already have a market. So don't sell yourself short. Now think about you. Hey, if I was since I'm a producer, if I wanted a rapper to feature on one of my songs, what would I be willing to pay? You may say $50 or $75. That's where I think you should charge, right? If I was in my own shoes and somebody, you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta kind of rework it. So, okay, cool. If they're not demanding anything, I think you should be working with a group of the same artists. You need to have 3 or 4 people you're constantly going back to. Those people need to be producing songs regularly with the beats that you're giving them for free. And you need to be able to do collab posts with them just to show proof of placement. You don't have to get a placement with a big artist. A lot of times people just want to see momentum. Vast majority of my career has been me working with people nobody's ever heard of. But we over here making shit happen. So people were like, well, she seems to be turning out wins, so I guess she's worth her stuff. It's not about the big. Now the big come to me, and I'm grateful. But a lot of times I'm still going to the big, like, yo, pay attention. Dame and all his experience is talking about how he's having to go after these companies. Payne is still pitching his beats regularly, y'all. If you think there's going to be an autopilot button that you hit one day and you're able to just say, I want this type of money, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to do a hotel deal right now. Y'all just heard me say, I stay in nice hotels. That shit gets expensive. I'm trying to do a brand deal right now with all my accolades that I think are dope and a lot of the work that I put in. I'm still struggling to find somebody to give me free hotel rooms. You feel me? It's always going to be a grind. And then that's going to happen. And then I'm going to get free hotel rooms. And then after that, they're going to be paying me to stay in their hotels. It's a stepping stool. So just try. And if you fail, try again. If you fail, try again.
I think it's hilarious because I get that all the time where people are like, well, you already had big records or you were connected in the industry before you sold beats online. So it was easy for you. Like, these people don't give a fuck. They really don't.
Yeah.
They absolutely do not. There are producers right now with hits in on the top 100 right now that have, 500 plays on each of their YouTube beat videos, and they're uploading like crazy. So they're still great. They got plaques coming in. They got royalty checks coming in quarterly from big hit records, and they are still leasing beats for $30 because, like what Erinn said, there is no autopilot. You got to work. So speaking of there not being any autopilot, let's
real quick. Let me just make a couple of points. Like one, because I'm trying to remember. Erinn said a whole bunch I wanted to respond to. You're never dealing with all information. Like, again, this is going to be a learning process. You learn from it, and I think you just have a clear idea of. Have a long-term vision for this, right? Like, with people that you want to build with. And we talked about negotiating. And a matter of fact, I just did an episode with Indiepreneur. It was all about negotiation. That's what that was about for like the whole hour. So there's many variables that you should consider in addition to like the price when you're talking with people, negotiating with people. So you have to keep all these factors in mind to come up with how you want to approach the negotiation or how you want to figure out the price. I know we got to move on to another topic, but yeah, I'll just say that you just want to know that there's a lot of variables to consider. And if you mess up, it's okay. Like, you can always, go back to the table. Even with Erin's example with Reebok, it's like, yeah, they added 5,000 more. It's like, okay, mental note, we'll keep that in our back pocket. Let's knock this campaign out the park so that they want to work with us again, and then, progress the pay scale from there. So yeah, anyway, my bad.
Payne, do you want to do this whole topic? Cause I know we're running, we've been there for a minute. So I could just do an Ask the MEC, because I do have a question that somebody had submitted under one of our things.
Punt this. I'll add this to the spreadsheet, and we can do it next episode.
Yeah, because the Ask the MEC, I think it'll be like easy and chill, and I want to try to be intentional to bring stuff back recurring.
Yeah, this is a little longer. Oh, it's already in there. Okay, never mind.
What, the Ask the MEC question, or no?
No, the
Oh yeah, I added it. You had said you had pulled it up, and that's right when I was adding it, so it's in there.
Yeah, the debris link. All right.
Okay, so for our final topic, we're bringing back Ask the MEC. We had somebody submit a question. It was under a post that Payne and I were talking about, just do it. Essentially, I feel like that's a consistent thing that we talk about. Just like, get out there and do it. What we just said, if you make a mistake, it's cool. Keep trying it out. Use that mistake as feedback and go from there. So under the question, somebody asked, okay, but how do I get out of my own head? And so I want to hear from y'all your opinions as an artist or a producer. If I'm not mistaken, the person was an artist and producer. I looked at their page. It looks like they're doing it full time. A ton of evidence of them placing beats with pretty successful artists, but it looked like they had put out their own music. Or maybe that's what they were trying to do, is put out their own music. So it didn't seem like somebody who's a complete novice, and maybe just part of their income comes from this, but they're not just brand new. And he said, how do I get out of my head? So I don't like answering this question for people who have no evidence of doing anything, because it's like you're just looking for something else to add to your list of Instagram screenshots that say inspo in your phone for you to not do anything. But when people who are progressing and progressive ask questions like these, I think it's valuable for us to share answers. So I'd love to hear what y'all have to say, and then I have a couple of short thoughts.
So the question is how to get out of your own head?
Yeah, to take next steps or to expand past what you're already doing and seeing success in. Like if they want to take, I think the guy was asking because it seemed like he wanted to take a step into either releasing music as an artist, or I don't know, maybe jumping ship and moving into another category. It was a more general question, but yeah, we were talking about moving forward, trying new things, going after the business. And he was saying, how do I get out of my own head to actually be effective in this?
I mean, it's so easy to tell people to just do something. And there are people who are just paralyzed and they don't do it, no matter how many times you scream motivational statements at them. But I think it depends for everyone. But one way that helped me personally, and this wasn't even with this is personal, this wasn't with my musical journey. This was with my personal growth / therapy journey. And it was me not wanting to spend $300 for a therapy session and not be prepared. It's expensive. So I don't want to walk in there and be like, okay, well, let me just tell you about my week and what pissed me off. I was throwing money down the drain doing that. So I was like, well, if the whole purpose and the whole theme right now of my life is intention, then I need to intentionally prepare myself if I intend on improving myself. So I just sat down, and I don't think anyone told me this. Maybe it was some advice from a YouTube video. Honestly, I don't know. But there are a lot of self-help YouTube channels out there, and some of them help. Honestly, depends on who you are and what the content is. But I just sat in front of a blank sheet of paper a couple times a week and just wrote. And sometimes it was structured, sometimes it wasn't. But sometimes I would prompt myself and just say, you know, what am I afraid of? Or what am I angry about? Or who do I want to be? Or what are my goals? And, you know, you write them down and then you sleep on it, you revisit, and you just have to be honest. And it's terrifying. You know, don't do it around other people. Do it by yourself. But even if you're just by yourself, it's sometimes terrifying to speak your fears. It's sometimes terrifying to speak your trauma if that's where the fears are coming from. But if you want to know how to get out of your head, I think that's a great way to do it, because you are literally getting these thoughts out of your head and putting them in front of you so you can confront them and plan on how to navigate them or change them or eliminate them, depending on what it is. And then after that, maybe it's like, oh shit, this is something for a therapist. Nothing wrong with that. You have a path now. You know what to do. Sometimes it's something simpler like, man, I've been saying I really want to just be more motivated and get more sleep, and I'm just exhausted. Okay, cool. Exercise for energy and for improved sleep and get on a better schedule. But now you have a reason to implement this regimen because you wrote it down. It came from you. And now it's no longer in your head and in your way. It's in front of you the way bowling pins are in front of you. So you got to just roll over them now at this point.
So, yeah, no, I think that's great advice. Therapy was going to be one of my suggestions to understand how you got to this place and why you feel these things. You know, put yourself in a positive environment, you know, work out, eat right, follow the right people on social media where you're given more positive, like people are pouring more positivity into you as opposed to like, you know, putting doubt or watching negative things, fights and things like that. I would make sure that if you're on social media, like follow positive stuff to kind of put you in the right mindset, and surround yourself with quality people. You know, hopefully you have people around you that are encouraging you. This is one of the many things that a manager can do, is to try to get you out of your head. You know, so I think those are some of the things that should help from my perspective.
Yeah, one of my responses to him, because we talked for a little bit, was environment is everything. So I was telling him your community, but also your conditioning. And that was exactly, I'm like, what are you watching? What are you listening to? Who is speaking to you? Because you are the 5 people that you spend the most time with. There's no way to get around that. So if you're around coworkers all the time who are just talking about gossip, like I've had to work before. I used to have gigs and, you know, they'd be talking about the latest celebrity, whatever. I'm not into that. I have never been into that. So for me, when they start, I'll be like, I don't even know. After a while, they stop bringing it up because I'm not engaging in the conversation, but I don't want to engage in that type of conversation. I want to learn something. I want to think pragmatically about the world. I want to talk about this coffee that we're making. Did you know if we dial this roaster in, we could bloom it better? Do you know what I'm saying? I want to talk about where I'm at right now. I want to be present and enjoy this and focus on this. So I think your environment really matters. And and that's big on mental conditioning. But I'll tell y'all things that I do. I'm very emotional. And so sometimes, like Payne says, just getting it out. My therapist essentially told me at 3 a.m. when I was up and pacing to just start talking to myself via voice note, right? So that's a practical way. But another way, we are in a society that is addicted to dopamine, right? So it's like you post or you go watch porn or you go take a shot of tequila or you go smoke a blunt, whatever, whenever anything is not exactly how we need it to be or when you're just bored. So I often, when I'm reaching productivity slumps, go on things that cause me to detox from dopamine, whether it's like fasting for a day or two or, removing certain things okay, I'm not going to drink for an entire month. And in that month, I'm going to try to read 30 pages a day, whatever, things like that. And the practicality of that is that you remind yourself, not only can you do hard things, but you thrive when you're not always satisfying yourself. So it plays this game with not even a game. It reconditions your brain. It's kind of like going to the gym for 30 days. When you come out 30 days later, you're like, shit, I can do a lot. So now it's like that email that you just wouldn't send or and this is for me, because when I get into slumps, I'm like, my brain is feeling some sort of feedback that I don't want it to. So I'm just going to change it. Cool, we're not going to eat today. We're going to go for a walk. I'm going to spend some time in the sun. And then I'm going to send emails. Emails while you're hungry are way harder than emails while you're fed. What am I doing? Why am I wasting time? I could have said this yesterday. Do you know what I'm saying? But like, just small things like that. I'm going to only drink water for the next 28 days. Like, I'll eat, but there's no beer, nothing sweet. You know what I'm saying? Like, just try different things to shake up your dynamic. Get out of, you can reprogram your world. Your life can change in 90 days. Like, for real. Like, and I can tell you things that happened to me in the last 60 days because I started a 90-day spread recently. And so at the end of the 90 days, I'm like, yo, it all started with me being like, I'm not going to eat today. And for the next month, I'm not going to drink. Right? Because I needed results. So I'm changing things up. So there's a lot of practical stuff. Start learning how to run. Join Toastmasters. You know what I'm saying? Like, try things that you wouldn't normally try to get out of your own head. If you're constantly listening to your own feedback loop, you're going to be in your head all day. So, and as somebody chronically in my own head, like, the self-saboteur in all of us shows up when we really want to do something. So it's like, get to the bottom of it, talk to yourself, try something new, get some accountability too. Like, I have built in accountability with almost every project that I'm working on. Like, and that really helps, because sometimes you're like, damn, somebody just told me I'm slacking. And that feeling is like, am I really slacking? Yeah, I'm actually slacking. What's going on here? You know what I'm saying? So that's my 2 cents, 52 cents, 38 cents. But there's a lot of ways to get out of the slump. But overthinking it and being on social media all day is one of the ways I'd suggest not doing that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is a confidence issue. And in order to build confidence, I would say, there's education. As long as you're continuing to educate yourself, you become more confident. And then, like I always say, build on small wins. So if you have a list of things that are smaller tasks and you start accomplishing some of those things, you start to feel better, more positive energy, and you start to feel like you're kind of owning and attacking the day, as opposed to, not feeling like you're being productive. So again, I know we said a lot, but I would say continue to educate yourself and then break your tasks up into smaller tasks and just start stacking those wins so you start feeling better about, the progress that you're making. So I typically lean on the people around me for stuff like this.
We appreciate you tuning in to another episode of the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast. And we talked a lot about money. We talked a lot about releasing music. We talked a lot about strategy. You can tie those all together by releasing music for free on tolost.com. Just use the code MEC and you'll have 3 months of free music distribution to get all your projects out. If it's an instrumental project, an album, whatever it is, get it out. It's not doing you any good just sitting there unreleased. So we appreciate anyone who's signing up. Drop a question, because we can use your question as a topic for an upcoming episode. And once again, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week.
Peace.